So in this video, I'm going to do some problem solving questions with you with histograms. The first thing we need to just quickly recap is the two key formula. If you want to know where these come from, please watch my other video. So area, if you remember on a histogram, represents the frequency. How many are in that group? And the frequency density, which is the height of a bar, is calculated by doing the frequency divided by the class width. Now, using those two facts, I'm going to look at some three problem-solving questions. Here is the first one. We have 61 students recorded how many hours they spent revising for a test. So we're going to use this to actually calculate the mean. So I'm going to use the fact that frequency is area to help me. So from here, I'm going to work out the area of each bar. I can see here that this has got a width of 6 and a height of 1.5, which gives me an area of 9. This has a width of 4 and a height of 3.5, so we have an area of 14. The next one, a width of 2, a height of 5, we have an area of 10. We now have a width of 4 and a height of 4.5, so we have an area of 18. And lastly, width of 4, height of 2.5, we have an area of 10. Now remember, area is frequency. So this first one has to have a frequency of 9 because we had an area of 9. The second has a frequency of 14. All these frequencies can now be put into our table. At this point, I'm going to forget that I was looking at histograms. I'm going to go now into estimating the mean mode. So to estimate the mean, to do a mean, you add them up, divide it by how many there are. Now, adding them all up is actually what this last column is going to be for. To add them all up, we do the frequency times the midpoint. So, first of all, we need to get our midpoints. The midpoint is the middle of each group. So, middle of 0 and 6 is 3. Middle between 6 and 10 is 8. The middle of 10 and 12 is 11. The middle of 12 and 16 is 14. And the middle of 16 and 20 is 18. So I'm now going to multiply these two columns together to give me the following numbers. We get 27, 112, 110, 252, and 180. That is us adding up the midpoint 9 times, this midpoint 8, 14 times. We're adding up all the numbers. So when we want to do the mean, we add them up. So 681 is the total of that column. So our mean is, we've added them all up, which is 681. And then we divide by how many there are. It's not 5 because there's 5 groups. Have a look in the question. There were 61 students. So I'm going to do 681 divided by 61, and that will give me 11.2. So the average is 11.2. I'm now going to just look at the graph. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's sort of in the middle. So that's nice. And there's a lot of data around there. So that seems to be a very good option. Give a reason why the answer to part A is an estimate. There's 2 reasons why it's an estimate. First, I don't know the original data. The original data is unknown. Or you can say we have used a midpoint in the group. I have assumed that all those 9 people in that first group are at the midpoint. We have to pick a point, so the midpoint is the most logical one. So the 2 reasons why it's an estimate: 1, we don't have the original data, and 2, it's because we use the midpoint. Let's have a look at another problem-solving question. With any of these, you're welcome to pause it and do it yourself, and then have a look at my solution. In this one, we have just some information about some of the bars, no frequency density. So what I've been told here, let's have a read through the facts. 30 members are in this bar. This is extremely useful because I can now work out the scale. I can now see that there is 30 as an area, a width of 20, and 30 divided by 20 is 1.5. So from that, I can now see what our scale is. This is going up by 0.5 each time. Let's just label this up. There we go. Now, We need to know the group from 65 to 80. We know there are 12 members. So I'm going to use my formula now to work out the height. To work out the frequency density, it is the frequency divided by the width of the group. Now 65 to 80 is 15. So 12 divided by 15 is 0.8. So I'm now going to draw a bar at 0.8, and that contains our 12 people. Now part B, work out the total number of members in the club. Well, I've already worked out two sections. We know we've got at least 42 people. I'm just going to now work out the area of all the other bars, and that will help me get the total. So this second bar is a width of 10, height of 4.5. 10 times 4.5 is 45. The next bar, width of 10, height of 36. 10 times 3.6 is 36. And then we have a width of 10, 20, 25. 25 times 2 is 50. So if we take these values and add them up, and in an exam it's always good to show your workings, this will give me a total area of 173. So the total number of members is 173. Okay then, let's now look at the third problem solving. This is a histogram to show information about speeds of cars as they pass a checkpoint. Now in this case, I only know the area of the total diagram. It tells me there is 480 cars, so I have a total area of 480. What I don't want to do is start counting all the little squares. So I am going to cut the bars into these bigger squares. Now I am aware the third section is a little bit under the bar, but that's not going to be a problem. So how many bars do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Now I've got 3 little bars left at the top, little thin ones, but if you notice here, I could chop them off and add them to the top of here to make some more full squares. So I actually would have in total 24 full squares. So if I do 480, I said 480 but did not write it, so let's try writing that again. Take 480 and divide it by the 24 squares I have. That tells me that each square contains 20 cars. Each of my bigger squares contain 20 cars. So I can see on this first section that I actually had 15 squares. So 15 times 20 is 300. So for the last part, cars with a speed greater than 40 miles per hour are over the speed limit. We're going to use the histogram to estimate the number. So I'm now going to ignore the fact that I put these little extra bits on. I need to use the proper height here. And I don't want to. This is going to be a very strange scale, but you don't need to work out the scale for this one. We know one of these blocks contains 20. So that means if I divide it by 5, it tells me that one of these strips contains 4 because there are 5 strips making up that 20. And I can see that this section has 4 strips and this section has 4 strips. So we have 8 strips together. So we take our 8 strips, we're going to times it by 4, and that tells us that there were 32 cars over the speed limit. I hope you found these useful. Thank you very much. Have a good day.